Maya Thompson, a 29-year-old Black American architect with a radiant smile and a penchant for chaos, sprinted through the gleaming halls of the Grand Meridian Hotel, her emerald green bridesmaid dress swishing against her deep brown skin. Her heart raced not just from the sprint, but from the sinking realization she was late for her best friend Lauren's wedding. At 29, Maya had built a reputation at her Chicago-based firm for designing sustainable community spaces. But today, her carefully planned schedule had unraveled. A delayed flight from a client presentation in Chicago, a taxi stuck in downtown traffic, and a last-minute heel swap, her favorites had betrayed her, with a wobble had conspired against her. Now clutching the hem of her dress, she dodged startled guests, her curly hair bouncing with each step. "Sorry," she called, weaving past a bellhop, balancing a tray of champagne flutes. The murmur of the wedding crowd drifted from the ballroom ahead, signaling the ceremony was moments from starting. Maya's mind raced. She was the maid of honor, ensuring Lauren's day was perfect. Instead, she was a whirlwind of tardiness, her architect's precision mocked by the universe. Just as she rounded a corner, her heel caught on the plush carpet, and she barreled into something or someone solid. Her bouquet of lilies flew from her hands, scattering petals like confetti, and her purse skidded across the marble floor. Strong hands gripped her waist before she could meet the ground in a spectacular crash, steadying her. The scent of cedar wood cologne enveloped her, grounding her spinning world. "Careful, you're not running a marathon," a deep voice teased, laced with amusement. Maya, catching her breath, looked up into the green eyes of Ethan Caldwell, a 34-year-old white American CEO whose pale skin contrasted sharply with his crisp navy suit. His dark blonde hair was neatly styled, and a faint smirk played on his lips, softening the sharp lines of his face. At 34, Ethan was the youngest CEO of Caldwell Financial, a powerhouse in Boston's investment scene, known for his calculated decisions and rare appearances at social events. Today, as the groom's best man, he was out of his element, but oddly captivated by the woman who'd nearly knocked him over. "And you're not the finish line," Maya shot back, brushing a curl from her face as she regained her balance. Her warm brown eyes sparkled with defiance, though her cheeks flushed under his gaze. "Thanks for the save, though." Ethan chuckled, releasing her waist, but lingering close enough for her to notice the faint freckles across his nose. "Anytime. However, you should slow down before you take out a chandelier." Maya glanced at her scattered belongings, stifling a laugh. "Noted. But I'm late and my best friend might disown me if I miss her walking down the aisle." She crouched to gather her bouquet, her movements quick but graceful, a testament to years of navigating high-pressure presentations with poise. Ethan bent to retrieve her purse, handing it to her with a raised eyebrow. "You're the maid of honor. Lauren mentioned you. Maya, right?" She froze, surprised he knew her name. "Yeah, Maya Thompson. And you are—" She trailed off, though something about his confident posture screamed important. "Ethan Caldwell, best man." He extended a hand, his grip firm but warm. "Groom's old college buddy. I don't usually do weddings, but I couldn't say no to this one." Maya shook his hand, her architect's eye, noting the tailored fit of his suit, a subtle hint of his wealth. "Well, Ethan, thanks for not letting me faceplant. But I've got a ceremony to crash." She flashed a grin, already backing away. "Break a leg," he called after her, his smirk widening. "Or at least don't break those heels." As Maya hurried toward the ballroom, her heart pounded from the sprint and the spark of that encounter. Ethan's teasing voice lingered in her mind, a distraction she couldn't afford. She slipped into place among the bridesmaids, just as the music swelled, earning a playful glare from Lauren. But even as she focused on the ceremony, she felt a prickle of awareness, sensing Ethan's presence across the aisle. "Hey, if you're loving this chaotic start to Maya and Ethan's story, drop a like to let us know, and tell us in the comments, Where are you watching from Chicago? Like Maya, Boston, Ethan, or somewhere else? Hit that subscribe button to catch the next part of their journey. We're just starting. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom glowed with soft golden light, the chandeliers casting a warm shimmer over the wedding guests. Maya Thompson stood among the bridesmaids, her emerald green dress catching the light as she adjusted her stance, trying to ignore the faint ache in her feet from those traitorous heels. The ceremony had just begun, and Lauren, radiant in her ivory gown, stood beside her groom James at the altar. Maya's heart swelled with pride for her best friend, but a prickle of awareness tugged at her focus. Somewhere across the aisle among the groomsmen, Ethan Caldwell stood his presence like a quiet current in the room. Maya kept her eyes forward, determined to focus on the vows. She'd known Lauren since their college days in Chicago, where they'd bonded over late-night study sessions and shared dreams of making a mark on the world, Maya through architecture, Lauren through her nonprofit work. Being late for this moment stung, and Lauren's earlier glare, though playful, hinted that you owe me. Maya smoothed her dress, vowing to make it up to her friend. But as the officiant's voice droned on, she felt that prickle again, like a soft tap on her shoulder. She risked a glance. Ethan, impeccable in his navy suit, stood with the groomsmen, his posture relaxed but attentive. He wasn't staring no cliché, piercing gazes here, but his head tilted slightly, as if catching her in his peripheral vision. His lips curved into a faint, knowing smile, and Maya's stomach flipped. She snapped her eyes back to the altar, her cheeks warming. Get it together, Maya. He's just a guy. A ridiculously charming guy, but still. Beside her, Keisha, another bridesmaid and a graphic designer who'd joined their college crew later, nudged her. Girl, you're fidgeting, Keisha whispered, her braids swaying as she leaned in. And don't think I didn't see that hallway crash. Who's the suit? Maya kept her voice low, barely moving her lips. Ethan Caldwell, best man. Some big shot CEO. Why? Keisha's eyes sparkled with mischief. Because he's been sneaking looks at you since you slid in here. And not the, I'm judging your tardiness kind, more like, intrigued. Maya rolled her eyes, though her pulse quickened. You're imagining things. He's here for James, not to play matchmaker. But Keisha's words stirred a memory of Ethan's teasing in the hallway, his steady hands catching her, his cedarwood scent lingering. She pushed it down. She had a job. Smile, hold the bouquet, don't trip. Romance was not on the agenda. Still, her curiosity got the better of her. Okay, what do you know about him? She whispered, keeping her eyes on Lauren's glowing smile. Keisha smirked. Ethan Caldwell, runs Caldwell Financial in Boston. Big money, bigger reputation. Guy's a ghost at social stuff, too busy closing million-dollar deals. Word is, he's all business, no heart. But, she paused for effect. He's looking at you, Maya. That's not business. Maya's throat tightened. She'd spent years carving her place in architecture, where she often had to prove herself twice over. Men like Ethan, powerful, confident, were usually trouble, their charm distracting from her goals. Yet something about his quiet amusement, his ease in catching her chaos, felt different. Dangerous maybe, but different. The officiant's voice rose, signaling the ring exchange, and Maya returned her attention. Lauren slipped a band onto James's finger, her eyes shining with love. The crowd sighed, and Maya's heart softened. She wanted this someday. Not the fancy ballroom, but the certainty, the connection. Her last relationship, a fleeting romance with a colleague, had crashed when he undermined her at work. Trust wasn't her strong suit anymore. As the couple kissed, applause erupted, and Maya clapped, her bouquet bobbing. She glanced across the aisle again, unable to resist. Ethan was clapping too, but his eyes flicked to her, his smile now a touch warmer, like he'd caught her looking. Maya's breath hitched. Nope, not doing this. She turned to follow the bridal party down the aisle, her steps deliberate, but her mind buzzed with the memory of his voice. Break a leg. The reception loomed ahead, and Maya knew she'd see him again. Lauren would expect her to mingle charm the guests and keep the night flawless. But Ethan's presence felt like a wild card, a spark threatening to ignite something she wasn't ready for. Or was she? The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses as the wedding reception swung into full gear. Fairy lights twinkled above elegantly set tables, and a jazz band filled the air with a lively melody. Maya Thompson, still glowing in her emerald green dress, weaved through the crowd, her role as maid of honor, keeping her on high alert. She'd already checked on Lauren beaming beside James and ensured the cake was ready for its grand reveal. But her mind drifted to Ethan Caldwell, the best man whose hallway rescue and subtle glances during the ceremony had left her off balance. Maya paused by a waiter's tray, reaching for a glass of red wine to steady her nerves. Her fingers brushed the stem, but a guest bumped her elbow, and the glass tipped, splashing crimson across a pristine navy suit. Her heart sank as she recognized the victim. Ethan stood before her, his expression a mix of surprise and amusement as the wine seeped into his jacket. The crowd around them hushed, and Maya's cheeks burned. "I swear I'm not this clumsy," she blurted, grabbing a napkin from a nearby table and dabbing at his suit. "This is officially the worst maid of honor moment in history." Ethan's lips twitched into a grin, his green eyes catching the light. "It's just wine, Maya. No need to call the disaster response team." He gently took the napkin from her, his fingers brushing hers, sending a jolt through her. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing a compass tattoo on his forearm, a relic from his college hiking days, a detail that caught her off guard. "Come on," he said, nodding toward the bar. "Let's get you a replacement drink before you start a flood." Maya followed, her embarrassment fading under his easy demeanor. The bar was a quiet oasis in the bustling room, its polished counter reflecting the golden glow of the lights. They settled onto stools, and Maya crossed her arms, trying to regain her composure. "You're calm for someone who just got doused," she said, eyeing him. Ethan shrugged, ordering 2 whiskeys from the bartender. "I've survived worse. Boardroom battles, bad investments. A little wine's nothing." His tone was light, but there was a flicker of something more profound, fatigue, maybe from a life of constant control. The drinks arrived, amber liquid glinting in the low light. Maya raised her glass, studying him over the rim. "Okay, Mr. CEO, what's your deal? Why's a guy like you at a wedding playing best man, instead of closing deals in some skyscraper?" Ethan chuckled, swirling his whiskey. "James and I go way back, college hiking trips, late-night debates over bad pizza. He's the only guy who'd drag me to something this festive." He paused, his smile softening. "But I'm glad I came. Unexpected perks." Maya's stomach flipped at the implication. She took a sip, the whiskey's warmth steadying her. "Perks like getting splashed." "You're welcome." She leaned forward, her architect's curiosity kicking in. "So, what's Caldwell Financial about, besides making you wear fancy suits?" He raised an eyebrow, clearly amused by her directness. "We invest in big ideas, tech, green energy, and community projects. I started funding urban renewal stuff a few years ago. Felt like, I don't know, but I'm balancing the scales after years of cutthroat deals." His voice held a hint of vulnerability, a crack in his polished facade. "What about you? Why architecture?" Maya hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of her glass. She wasn't used to opening up, especially not to someone like Ethan, whose world of boardrooms felt miles from her Chicago roots. But his sincerity disarmed her. "I grew up watching my grandmother tend a community garden," she said. "It was this tiny patch of green in a concrete jungle. I want to design spaces that bring people together and improve life. Cheesy maybe, but it's why I'm up at 3 a.m., sketching sustainable rooftops. Ethan's eyes lit up not with judgment, but genuine interest. That's not cheesy. It's real. Most people I meet want to build taller skyscrapers for clout. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You're different, Maya. I noticed that the second you crashed into me. Her breath caught the air between them, charged. She wanted to deflect with a joke, but his words hit a nerve. She'd spent years proving herself in a field where she was often the only woman like her in the room. Her designs scrutinized harder than her colleagues. Ethan's attention felt like a spotlight, thrilling, but dangerous. Careful, she teased, forcing a grin. Flattery might get you another wine bath. He laughed, a low, warm sound that sent a shiver down her spine. I'll take my chances. They sat in companionable quiet for a moment, the jazz band's notes weaving around them. Maya felt a pull, like a blueprint coming together, but she knew better than to trust it. Her last relationship had taught her that mixing work and romance could derail her dreams. And Ethan, he was a walking risk. She slid off the stool, clutching her glass. I should check on Lauren. Maid of honor duties call. She paused, meeting his gaze. Thanks for not making me feel like a total disaster. Ethan stood, his smile soft but steady. Anytime, Maya. I'm starting to like disasters. As she walked away, her heart raced, knowing this wasn't the last spark between them. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom pulsed with the rhythm of a slow jazz tune, the saxophone's sultry notes weaving through the crowd. Maya Thompson, her emerald green dress catching the soft glow of the fairy lights, stood near the edge of the dance floor, watching couples sway. She'd just ensured Lauren and James's first dance went off without a hitch. Her maid of honor duties momentarily eased. But her thoughts kept circling back to Ethan Caldwell, whose wine-soaked suit and whiskey-shared banter at the bar had left her more rattled than she cared to admit. She sipped a glass of champagne, the bubbles tickling her throat, and scanned the room. Ethan was across the floor chatting with James, his navy jacket replaced with a fresh one, likely conjured by some best man magic. His rare and unguarded laughter carried over the music, and Maya's chest tightened. She'd spent years building walls, and her career and independence were hard-won after a relationship that had cost her a promotion. Ethan threatened to breach those defenses with his easy charm and quiet intensity. Ethan turned as if sensing her gaze, his green eyes locked onto hers. He excused himself from James and crossed the room, his stride confident but not rushed. Maya's pulse quickened, but she held her ground, clutching her glass like a shield. Taking a break from saving the day, Ethan asked, stopping close enough for her to catch the faint cedarwood scent of his cologne. Maya tilted her head, a smirk playing on her lips. Someone's got to keep this wedding from turning into chaos. You're welcome. He chuckled, the sound low and warm. Well, you're doing a hell of a job. But he gestured to the dance floor where couples moved in sync with the music. You haven't danced yet. Seems like a crime. Maya raised an eyebrow, her heart skipping. You keeping tabs on me? Caldwell guilty. He admitted, his smile softening. He extended a hand, palm up, an invitation wrapped in a challenge. One dance, Maya. You owe me for the wine incident. She hesitated, her gaze flicking to the crowd. Lauren caught her eye from the head table, flashing a mischievous grin that screamed, Go for it. Keisha nearby gave a subtle nod, her braids swaying. The weight of their encouragement, mixed with the pull of Ethan's quiet confidence, tipped the scales. Maya set her glass on a passing waiter's tray and placed her hand in his, her fingers warm against his cool palm. Fine, she said, her voice steady, despite the flutter in her chest. But don't expect me to follow your lead. Ethan's grin widened as he led her to the dance floor. Wouldn't dream of it. The music slowed, the band easing into a soulful melody. Ethan's hand settled lightly on Maya's waist, his other hand cradling hers with a gentleness that belied his CEO polish. They moved together, their steps surprisingly in sync, as if they'd done this 100 times. Maya's dress swirled around her, the fabric brushing his legs, and the crowded room faded for a moment. Maya said, "You're not what I expected." Her voice soft, but curious. "I figured you'd be all boardroom, no soul." Ethan's eyes crinkled with amusement, but there was a flicker of something more profound. "And I figured you'd be all chaos, no control. Guess we're both wrong." He paused, his thumb brushing her hand. "I don't do this, you know. Weddings, dancing. It's not my world." "Then why are you here?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. "Besides, James is dragging you." He was quiet for a beat, his gaze dropping to their joined hands. "My parents split when I was a kid. Messy divorce, lots of shouting. Made me wary of things like this." He met her eyes again, his vulnerability raw but fleeting. "But James stuck by me. So here I am, trying not to screw up his day." Maya's heart ached at the confession, small but heavy. She understood walls she'd built her own after her ex's betrayal, when she'd lost a career opportunity to his ambition. "I get it," she said. "My family's tight, but money was always a fight. Lauren's like my sister, though. She's why I'm here, heels and all." Ethan nodded, his grip on her waist tightening slightly. "You're good at this, holding it together for her." She smiled a little shyly from years of practice. "You're not bad yourself for a guy who claims he doesn't dance." The song neared its end, the notes lingering in the air. Ethan leaned closer, his voice a whisper near her ear. "Coffee tomorrow. No wine, no chaos, just us." Maya's breath caught the world narrowing to his green eyes and the warmth of his hand. Her instinct was to pull back to protect her carefully built life. But something in his gaze, hope, maybe made her pause. Maybe she said, her voice teasing, but her heart racing, "If you survive the rest of this wedding." The music faded, and they stepped apart, applause rippling through the room. Ethan's smile was soft, promising more. Maya walked back to Lauren's table, her skin tingling, knowing something had shifted, something she wasn't ready to name. The Monday morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Horizon Construction's Chicago office, casting sharp shadows across the sleek conference room. Maya Thompson, dressed in a tailored blazer and pencil skirt, clutched a folder of sketches for the Unity Tower project, her heart still humming from the weekend's wedding. The dance with Ethan Caldwell, his hand on her waist, his quiet confession about his parents' divorce, had left her sleepless, replaying the moment like a blueprint she couldn't finalize. But today was about work. The Unity Tower, a sustainable skyscraper with green rooftops, was her chance to cement her name in a field where she'd fought to be seen. Romance could wait. She entered the conference room, nodding to her colleagues, who were abuzz with chatter. Marcus, her boss, stood at the head of the table, flipping through documents with his usual intensity. A former architect turned director, Marcus had mentored Maya since she joined the firm, recognizing her talent despite the skepticism she'd faced early on. "Morning, Maya," he said, his voice warm but brisk. "Big day. Our new investor is here." Maya settled into her chair, smoothing her skirt. Investor. For the Unity Tower. The project was her baby, a design she'd poured years of vision into, community-focused, eco-friendly, a legacy for Chicago's skyline. She opened her folder, ready to dive into structural details, when the door swung open. Her breath caught. Ethan Caldwell stepped in his navy suit, as impeccable as ever, his green eyes scanning the room. He carried a leather portfolio, his presence commanding without effort. Maya's stomach twisted, her mind flashing to their dance, his whispered offer of coffee. This had to be a coincidence. He was a wedding guest, not everyone. Marcus said, gesturing to Ethan, "Meet Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Financial and our lead investor for the Unity Tower. His firm's backing will push this project to new heights." Maya froze, her pen slipping from her fingers. Ethan's gaze landed on her, his expression professional, but with a flicker of recognition that sent her heart racing. "Miss Thompson," he said, his voice smooth, "it was good to see you again." The room's chatter faded, her colleagues oblivious to the undercurrent. Maya forced a smile, her mind reeling. "Mr. Caldwell," she replied, her tone clipped but polite. "Welcome aboard." Inside, panic surged. The Unity Tower was her shot at proving herself a project that could open doors to bigger contracts, dating an investor. That was a scandal waiting to happen, a risk to her reputation in a field quick to judge. Marcus launched into the project overview, detailing timelines and budgets, but Maya barely heard him. Ethan sat at the table's head, focusing on the documents, yet she felt his awareness of her like a quiet pulse. She glanced at Keisha, who'd joined the firm as a freelance designer and was now in the meeting, her eyes wide with a knowing smirk. Maya shot her a "don't you dare" look, but Keisha's grin only widened. As Marcus discussed the green rooftop design, Maya's pride, Ethan interjected, his voice calm but incisive. "The sustainability angle is strong, but have we considered modular panels for cost efficiency?" His question was sharp, aimed at the room, but landing squarely on Maya. She straightened, her architect's instinct kicking in. Modular panels cut costs, but compromise durability in Chicago's winters. My design prioritizes long-term resilience. Her voice was steady, though her pulse wasn't. Defending her work to Ethan felt like a test she couldn't afford to fail. He nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. "Fair point. Let's explore hybrid options." The meeting moved on, but the exchange left Maya unsettled. Ethan wasn't just a wedding crush anymore. He was a player in her professional world, a complication she hadn't seen coming. After the meeting, Maya lingered, gathering her sketches as her colleagues filed out. Keisha sidled up, her voice low. "So, Mr. Bestman's your boss now, girl. You didn't mention that at the wedding." "He's not my boss," Maya hissed, glancing to ensure Ethan was out of earshot. "And I didn't know he'd be here." "This is a disaster," Keisha chuckled. "Or a chance. He was watching you the whole meeting, not in a creepy way, but like he's curious. Be careful, though. Office gossip's brutal." Maya's throat tightened. She'd faced whispers before, colleagues questioning her promotions, assuming she'd charmed her way up. A romance with Ethan could fuel those rumors, undermining years of hard work. Yet as she looked up, Ethan was at the door, his portfolio tucked under his arm, his smile subtle but warm. "Miss Thompson, can we discuss the rooftop specs later?" "Over coffee, maybe." Her heart skipped, his wedding night offer echoing. She wanted to say yes, to feel that spark again, but the weight of her career pressed down. She said, "I'll check my schedule." Her voice neutral, but her mind stormed. As he left, Maya knew this project, and Ethan would test her in ways she wasn't ready for. The Chicago skyline glittered through the windows of Rosie's Diner, a cozy spot tucked away from the city's bustle, its neon sign casting a warm glow over checkered floors and vinyl booths. Maya Thompson sat across from Ethan Caldwell, her tailored blazer swapped for a casual sweater after a long day at Horizon Construction. The Unity Tower project meeting had stretched into the evening, and Ethan's suggestion to discuss specs over dinner had led them here, far from the upscale restaurants she'd expected a CEO like him to frequent. Her sketchbook lay open between them, pages filled with green rooftop designs. But the air felt charged with something more than work. Maya sipped her iced tea, eyeing Ethan as he studied her sketches. His navy tie was loosened, and the sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up, revealing that compass tattoo from the wedding. The diner's jukebox played a soft Motown tune, and the scent of burgers and fries mingled with his cedarwood cologne. "You picked this place on purpose, didn't you?" Ethan asked, his green eyes glinting with amusement and trying to throw me off my game. Maya smirked, leaning back in the booth. "You're a suit guy, Caldwell. I figured you'd squirm in a place where the menu doesn't have caviar." She gestured to the laminated menu, its edges worn from years of use. "Besides, Rosie's has the best burgers in Chicago. Trust me." He chuckled, flipping a page in her sketchbook. "I trust your taste. These designs, though." He tapped a sketch of modular planters. "They're bold. You're not just building a skyscraper, you're rethinking how people live in cities." Maya's chest warmed at the compliment. The Unity Tower was her chance to prove she could design spaces that mattered, inspired by her grandmother's community garden and years of fighting for a seat at the table. "That's the goal," she said, her voice softening. "I want people to feel connected, not dwarfed by concrete. But it's a risk. If the budget gets slashed, those rooftops are the first to go." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "I get it. I've funded projects like this green initiatives that get gutted for profit, but your vision's worth fighting for." He paused, his fingers brushing the sketch. "I started backing urban renewal after a deal went south. It felt like I owed something to the world after profiting from it." The confession caught Maya off guard. She'd pegged him as all business, but this, his quiet admission of guilt, felt raw. "What kind of deal?" she asked, curiosity overriding her caution. Ethan leaned back, his gaze distant. "Early in my career, I pushed a development that displaced a neighborhood. Didn't think about the people, just the numbers. Later, I saw the empty lots, the families gone. Strike me." He met her eyes, a flicker of vulnerability in them. "Now I fund projects that build, not break." Maya's throat tightened. She knew that kind of regret. Her first job had her designing sterile office towers, ignoring the communities they overshadowed. "My grandmother used to say, a garden's only as good as the hands that tend it," she said. "I got into architecture to make spaces like hers, places that grow people, not just profits." "Sounds idealistic, I know." "Not idealistic," Ethan said, his voice low. "It's why your designs stand out. You care." His hand rested near hers on the table, not touching, but close enough to send a shiver down her spine. The waitress arrived with their burgers, breaking the moment. Maya dove into hers, grateful for the distraction. "Okay, moment of truth," she said, nodding at his plate. "Can a CEO handle a diner burger?" Ethan took a bite, his eyes lighting up. "Damn, Thompson. You win. This is better than half the overpriced plates I've had." She laughed, the sound easing the tension in her chest. They ate, trading stories, her late nights sketching in college, his childhood building model cities with his dad before the divorce soured things. The conversation flowed, their shared passion for creating something meaningful, bridging their worlds. But as the jukebox switched to a slower tune, Maya's mind drifted to the stakes. Ethan was an investor in her project. Getting close could blur lines, invite gossip, or jeopardize her credibility. She set down her burger, wiping her hands. "This was fun, but we're here for work, right? Those rooftop specs." Ethan's smile was knowing, like he'd sensed her retreat. "Sure, but I'm not just here for specs, Maya." He leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. "I meant what I said at the wedding. Coffee, dinner, whatever, this isn't just business for me." Her heart raced, her defenses wavering. She wanted to lean into this to explore the spark, but her last relationship had taught her the cost of mixing work and romance. Ethan, you're an investor. I'm the lead architect. People talk. I can't afford that. He nodded, his expression softening. I respect that. But I'm not asking you to risk anything. Just don't shut this down yet. He slid her sketchbook back to her, his fingers grazing hers momentarily. Let's keep talking about rooftops or burgers or whatever you want. Maya exhaled, torn between caution and the pull of his sincerity. Okay, she said finally. But work stays work. As they left the diner, the city lights twinkling outside, she knew those lines were already blurring, and she wasn't sure she wanted to stop them. The Chicago skyline shimmered under a blanket of stars, its lights reflecting off the river's glassy surface as Maya Thompson and Ethan Caldwell walked along the city's riverwalk. The late-night air was crisp, a welcome relief after a marathon meeting at Horizon Construction, where they debated the Unity Tower's structural supports until after 9. Maya's sweater hugged her frame, her sketchbook tucked under her arm, while Ethan's navy coat was unbuttoned, his tie long discarded. The dinner at Rosie's Diner had left them both unsteady, their shared passion for meaningful design, blurring the line between professional and personal. Now Ethan's suggestion to clear their heads with a walk had Maya questioning her resolve to keep him at arm's length. They strolled past a row of historic buildings, their stone facades glowing under streetlights. Maya paused by a Beaux-Arts structure, its ornate columns a relic of Chicago's past. This one's a mess, she said, pointing up. Gorgeous, but the upper floors are crumbling. I'd love to restore it and add a community space. Her voice carried the fire she'd felt at the diner, sketching rooftops that could change lives. Ethan stopped beside her, his green eyes tracing the building's lines. You see potential where others see decay. That's rare. He shoved his hands into his coat pockets, his breath visible in the cool air. I used to sketch buildings as a kid, model cities. Thought I'd be an architect until numbers took over. Maya turned to him, surprised. You swapping boardrooms for blueprints. The image of Ethan, the polished CEO, hunched over childhood sketches, softened something in her. She'd seen his vulnerability before, his regret over a past deal, his parents' divorce, but this felt closer, more personal. He shrugged, a half-smile tugging at his lips. Dreams change. But I get why you fight for yours. That passion, it's infectious. His voice was low, almost a whisper, and the space between them felt charged like the air before a storm. Maya's heart thudded. She started walking again, needing motion to ground her. You're dangerous. You know that, she said, her tone teasing, but her pulse anything but. Making me talk about dreams when I'm supposed to be focused on steel beams and budgets. Ethan kept pace, his shoulder brushing hers. And you're dangerous for making me want to talk about mine. He glanced at her, his expression open in a way that disarmed her. I don't open up, Maya. Not usually. But with you, it's easy. They reached a quiet stretch of the Riverwalk, the city's hum fading to a distant murmur. Maya stopped, leaning against a railing, the river's gentle ripples below reflecting her swirling thoughts. Her last relationship had left scars. Her ex's ambition had cost her a promotion, teaching her to guard her heart and career fiercely. With his quiet intensity and shared ideals, Ethan was cracking that guard wide open. He faced her, the streetlight casting shadows across his face. What are we doing, Maya? He asked, his voice soft but direct. This isn't just about the Unity Tower anymore. Her breath caught. She wanted to deflect to keep the walls up, but his honesty pulled at her. I don't know, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. You're an investor. I'm the architect. This could blow up in my face, gossip, judgment, my reputation. Ethan stepped closer, his coat brushing her arm. I'd never let that happen. But I can't pretend I don't feel this. His hand lifted hesitating, then tucked a stray curl behind her ear. The touch sent a shiver through her, and before she could think, he leaned in, his lips meeting hers in a kiss soft at first, then deepening with a quiet urgency. Maya melted into it, her hands finding his chest, the warmth of him grounding her. The world. Chicago. The project. Her fears faded until it was just them, the river, and this moment. But reality crashed back sharp and cold. She pulled away, her breathing uneven, her fingers still clutching his coat. Ethan, this could ruin everything, she whispered, her voice trembling. My career. Everything I've built. He didn't step back, but his hands dropped, giving her space. I know, he said, his voice steady, but laced with regret. I'd never ask you to risk that. But I'm here, Maya. I'll wait until you're ready, or until you tell me to walk away. Her chest ached at his words. She wanted to stay and kiss him again, but her ambitions held her back. I need time, she said, stepping back, the river's chill seeping into her. Don't make this more complicated than it is. Ethan nodded, his eyes holding hers with a promise. Take all the time you need. He gestured toward her apartment building a few blocks away. Let me walk you home. They walked in silence, the tension between them a living thing. At her building's steps, Maya paused, her heart still racing. Good night, Ethan, she said, her voice soft but firm. Good night, Maya, he replied, his smile small but warm. As she climbed the steps, she didn't look back, but she felt his steady and patient gaze until the door closed behind her. The Horizon construction office hummed with the quiet intensity of a busy morning, the clatter of keyboards and murmured phone calls filling the air. Maya Thompson sat at her desk, her eyes fixed on a digital model of the Unity Tower's green rooftops, but her mind was elsewhere. 2 nights ago, the kiss with Ethan Caldwell on the Riverwalk lingered like a blueprint she couldn't erase, soft, urgent, dangerous. She'd asked for time, but time wasn't helping. Every thought of his cedarwood scent, or how his hand had tucked her curl behind her ear, collided with her fear of risking her career, a fear rooted in a past where love had cost her dearly. Maya adjusted her blazer, forcing her focus back to the screen. The Unity Tower was her shot at leaving a mark on Chicago's skyline, a project that could elevate her from promising to proven in a field quick to doubt her. But Ethan, as the lead investor, was now a constant presence, his questions in meetings, his quiet support of her designs, his mere existence a reminder of that kiss. She couldn't afford distractions, not when whispers about her had started. Keisha, her friend, and the firm's freelance designer leaned against Maya's desk, her braids pulled into a neat bun. You're staring at that screen like it's gonna confess something, she teased, holding a coffee mug. Spill what's got you so tense, and don't say it's just the project. Maya sighed, glancing around to ensure no one was eavesdropping. It's complicated, she muttered. You saw Ethan in the meeting yesterday. He's everywhere and people are noticing. Keisha raised an eyebrow. Noticing you two making eyes. Yeah, I caught that. So did half the team. Words spreading, Maya. Be careful, folks love to talk, especially about you. Maya's stomach nodded. She'd faced gossip before, colleagues questioning her promotions, implying she'd leaned on charm rather than skill. The memory of her ex, who'd undermined her for a promotion, stung. I haven't done anything, she said, her voice low but sharp. We kissed once. That's it. Once is enough, Keisha said, her tone softening. I'm on your side, but you know how this place is. You're killing it on this project. Don't let a crush mess that up. Before Maya could respond, Marcus, their boss, called them into the conference room for a Unity Tower update. Maya grabbed her tablet, her resolve hardening. She'd keep it professional, no matter how her heart raced at the thought of Ethan. In the meeting, Ethan sat across from her, his navy suit crisp, his portfolio open. He was all business, discussing budget projections with Marcus, but his occasional glance her way sent a jolt through her. When the discussion turned to her rooftop designs, Maya presented her latest adjustments, her voice steady, despite the tension coiling inside her. She explained that the modular planters cut costs without sacrificing durability, projecting a 3D model. They're scalable, perfect for Chicago's weather. Ethan leaned forward, his green eyes narrowing, not with doubt, but curiosity. The scalability's impressive, but what about maintenance? Long-term costs could offset the savings. The question was fair, but it stung like a challenge to her expertise. Maya bristled, her architect's pride flaring. "I've factored in maintenance," she said, pulling up data. "The system's designed for low upkeep with local suppliers for replacements. It's sustainable and practical." Marcus nodded, impressed, but Ethan's expression didn't shift. "Good," he said, his tone neutral. "Just making sure we're covered." The meeting wrapped, and as the team dispersed, Maya stayed behind, her frustration simmering. Ethan's critique, though valid, felt personal, as if he were testing her resolve. She packed her tablet, her movements sharp, and his voice was low when he approached. "Maya, about earlier, I didn't mean to put you on the spot." She met his gaze, her jaw tight. "Then don't. I can't afford to look weak, Ethan. Not with this project, not with us." The last word slipped out heavy with meaning. His eyes softened, a flicker of regret crossing his face. "I'm not trying to make this more complicated. I'm distracted by you. It's messing with my head." Her breath caught his honesty, disarming her. "You think I'm not distracted?" she snapped, lowering her voice. "I'm trying to keep my career intact while you're everywhere. I can't think straight." Ethan stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers, but not touching. "Then please tell me what you want. If it's space, I'll give it. But I'm not sorry for that kiss." Maya's chest ached, torn between wanting to lean into him and running from the risk. "I want to focus," she said finally. "This project is everything to me. We need to keep it professional for now." He nodded, his expression unreadable, but his voice steady. "Okay, professional it is." He stepped back, giving her the space she'd requested, but as he left, Maya felt the distance like a physical weight. The Horizon construction office buzzed with the usual Monday morning energy phones ringing and keyboards clacking as the team prepared for a critical Unity Tower meeting. Maya Thompson stood by the conference room's projector, her tablet open to a revised rooftop design, her nerves taut from a weekend wrestling with her feelings. The kiss on the Riverwalk with Ethan Caldwell and their tense office exchange had left her teetering between desire and dread. The Unity Tower was her career-defining project, a chance to prove her worth in a field that often doubted her. Getting closer to Ethan, the lead investor risked fueling gossip that could unravel everything she'd built. She adjusted her blazer, her fingers brushing the sketchbook she'd carried since the diner night with Ethan. His words, "I'm distracted by you," echoed her plea to keep things professional. But the memory of his lips, his cedarwood scent, made that resolve feel like a flimsy blueprint. Maya took a deep breath, focusing on the task at hand. Today's meeting concerned securing the project's next phase, and she needed to shine. Marcus, her boss, entered with the team, his presence steadying her. Keisha followed, flashing a supportive grin that said, "You got this." But when Ethan walked in, his navy suit crisp and his green eyes scanning the room, Maya's heart lurched. He took his seat, his portfolio open, and his demeanor was all business. Yet as their eyes met briefly, a flicker of warmth passed between them, unspoken but undeniable. Marcus kicked off the meeting, outlining the project's progress. Maya presented her updated designs, her voice confident as she detailed the green rooftop's energy efficiency. The team nodded impressed, but Ethan's silence drew her attention. He leaned forward, his pen tapping his portfolio, and then he spoke, his tone measured. "The designs are stellar, but I have an announcement." The room stilled. Maya's stomach tightened, sensing a shift. Ethan stood, his posture calm but resolute. "As of today, I'm transferring my investment in the Unity Tower to another firm. Caldwell Financial will step back to avoid any conflict of interest." A murmur rippled through the team. Marcus raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. "Ethan, that's a significant move. Can you clarify?" Ethan's gaze flicked to Maya, brief but heavy with meaning. "My involvement could complicate the project's integrity. I trust Horizon to deliver, and my firm will ensure a seamless transition to a new investor." His words were professional, but Maya caught the undercurrent. He was doing this for her. The meeting continued, but Maya barely heard the discussion. Ethan's decision was monumental, a sacrifice of millions to clear the path for what? Them. Her mind raced, replaying their kiss, his promise to wait. She'd built her career on control, on proving herself against doubters, but Ethan's move shook that foundation. It was both a gift and a challenge, forcing her to confront her fears of vulnerability, rooted in a past where a relationship had cost her a promotion. As the team dispersed, Keisha lingered, her voice low. "He just dropped a bomb for you, Maya. That's not just business, that's personal." Maya nodded, her throat tight. "I know. But what if I'm not ready for this?" Keisha squeezed her arm. "You don't have to be. Just don't run from it." In the hallway, Ethan caught up with her, his expression softer than in the meeting. "Maya, can we talk privately?" She hesitated, her tablet clutched like a shield. "Fine," she said, leading him to a quiet corner office. The door closed, and the air felt thick with unspoken words. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her voice steady, but her eyes searching his. "You just walked away from a massive investment." Ethan leaned against the desk, his hands in his pockets. "Because I want you, Maya. Not the project, not the numbers you. I saw how this was tearing you up, the worry about gossip, your career. I won't be the reason you hold back." Her chest ached, his words hitting like a hammer. "You can't just upend your life for me," she said, her voice wavering. "This project was massive for you too." "It was," he admitted, his green eyes raw with honesty. "But I've spent years chasing deals, staying safe behind numbers. Then I met you, and suddenly safe doesn't feel like enough." His voice dropped, a rare vulnerability breaking through. "I'm not good at this, Maya. Feelings, risks. But I'm trying." Maya's heart pounded. She'd spent years guarding herself, her grandmother's words, "Never let anyone dim your light," guiding her. But Ethan wasn't dimming her. He stepped aside to let her shine. Yet the fear lingered, a shadow of her past betrayal. "I need time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is a lot." He nodded, his smile small but steady. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." He stepped back, giving her space, but his presence lingered as he left. Maya stood alone, her mind a storm of fear and possibility. Ethan's sacrifice had torn down her biggest excuse, but could she let herself leap? The Chicago night wrapped Maya Thompson in a cool embrace as she wandered the city streets, her sneakers scuffing against the pavement. It was late, the skyline's lights blurring through a haze of her racing thoughts. Ethan Caldwell's bombshell in the Unity Tower meeting, transferring his investment to avoid a conflict of interest, had shaken her, stripping away her excuse to keep him at a distance. The kiss on the Riverwalk, the diner's shared dreams, and his quiet confession of wanting more than a safe life swirled in her mind. clashing with her fear of losing herself to love again. Her last relationship had cost her a promotion. A wound still stung. And now Ethan's bold move had her teetering on the edge of something she wasn't sure she could handle. She'd agreed to meet him at his penthouse to talk a decision that felt reckless as she stepped into the sleek elevator, its mirrored walls reflecting her tense expression. Her sweater and jeans felt out of place in the opulent building, but she wasn't here to impress. She needed answers. The door to Ethan's apartment opened, and he stood there. His navy shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his green eyes searching hers. The spacious living room, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist decor, framed the city's glow, but the air between them crackled with tension. "Thanks for coming," Ethan said, his voice low as he gestured to a leather couch. A bottle of red wine sat on the coffee table, 2 glasses beside it. Maya sat clutching her hands to steady them, her heart pounding. "You didn't give me much choice," she said, her tone sharp but unsteady. Dropping out of the Unity Tower. "That's not a small thing, Ethan. Why didn't you warn me?" He sat across from her, his elbows on his knees. "I didn't plan it like that. I saw how much the project means to you, how you're fighting to prove yourself. I couldn't be the reason you held back." His voice was earnest, but a shadow crossed his face, a hesitation that made her stomach twist. Maya leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "So, you just decided for me. Do you think I can't handle my career and whatever this is?" She gestured between them, her frustrations spilling over. "I'm all in, Ethan. I feel something and it scares me, but I'm here. Are you?" He ran a hand through his hair, his expression conflicted. "I want to be," he said, his voice dropping. "But I'm not. I'm not good at this, Maya. My parents' divorce, it messed me up. I saw love tear them apart, and I've spent my life avoiding that kind of chaos. I don't know if I can do this without screwing it up." Her chest tightened, his words cutting deeper than she'd expected. She'd opened up and let her guard down, but Ethan was still holding back, caught in his fears. "So what are you saying?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You walked away from a multi-million-dollar project for me, but you're not sure you can be all in." Ethan's gaze dropped to the floor, his silence louder than any answer. Maya's heart sank, the memory of her ex's betrayal flashing through her mind, how he'd chosen his career over her, leaving her to pick up the pieces. "I can't do halfway, Ethan," she said, standing, her voice trembling. "I've lost too much before. If you're not sure, then I'm out." "Maya, wait," he said, standing too, his hand reaching for her, but stopping short. "I don't want to lose you. I need to figure this out." She shook her head, tears prickling her eyes. "Figure it out without me." She grabbed her bag and walked to the door, her steps heavy. "I deserve someone certain." The door closed behind her, the sound echoing in her chest as she stepped into the elevator, her vision blurring. Outside, Maya wandered the city for hours, the cool night air doing little to ease the ache. Her mother's advice, "Love shouldn't make you smaller," rang in her ears, but didn't dull the pain. She'd fallen for Ethan, his passion, his vulnerability, but his hesitation felt like a rejection. Back at her apartment, she collapsed onto her couch, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince herself she'd made the right choice. The next morning, Keisha texted, checking in after hearing about Ethan's exit from the project. "You okay?" "The office is buzzing." Maya didn't reply, and her phone screen was dark. She called in sick to Horizon Construction, needing space. The Unity Tower was moving forward, with Maya taking on more leadership as Marcus praised her designs, but none felt real. Ethan's absence left a void, and she hated how much it hurt. The soft patter of rain against Maya Thompson's apartment window filled the quiet of her living room, where she sat, curled on the couch, a mug of tea cooling in her hands. It was Friday evening, 2 days since she'd walked out of Ethan Caldwell's penthouse. His hesitation. I don't know if I can do this, cutting deeper than she'd expected. The Unity Tower project had kept her busy at Horizon Construction, her leadership earning praise from Marcus, but the ache in her chest refused to fade. She'd fallen for Ethan, his passion and vulnerability, only to face the same fear that had scarred her before, love she couldn't commit to. Her mother's words, "Love shouldn't make you smaller," echoed, but they didn't ease the hurt. Her phone lay silent on the coffee table, ignored, since she'd called in sick yesterday, needing space from the office's buzz and Keisha's concerned texts. The Unity Tower was on track. Her green rooftop designs approved, but success felt hollow. Without Ethan's quiet support, his questions in meetings that had pushed her to sharpen her vision. She'd told him she deserved certainty, but walking away hadn't brought clarity, only a gnawing sense of loss. The doorbell rang sharp and unexpected. Maya frowned, setting her mug down. She wasn't expecting anyone, and Lauren was off on her honeymoon. Tugging her sweater tighter, she opened the door and her heart stopped. Ethan stood there, raindrops clinging to his navy coat, damp and tousled hair. His green eyes held an intensity she hadn't seen before, a mix of determination and nerves that made her grip the doorframe. "No," she said flatly, her voice betraying the tremor in her chest. "I'm done talking, Ethan." He didn't move, rain dripping from his coat onto the hallway floor. "I'm not. Maya, please hear me out." His voice was steady, but there was a raw edge, a crack in his usual control. She hesitated, her resolve wavering. The memory of their kiss, his sacrifice of the Unity Tower investment, tugged at her. Against her better judgment, she stepped aside, letting him in. He shook off his coat, hanging it by the door, and followed her to the living room, where the rain's rhythm underscored the tension. Maya crossed her arms, standing by the window. "You've got 5 minutes. What do you want?" Ethan ran a hand through his damp hair, his expression unguarded in a way that made her heart ache. "I was wrong," he said, his voice low but firm. "When I said I wasn't sure in the penthouse, I was scared. I've avoided this, Maya, because love wrecked my parents. I saw it tear them apart, and I swore I'd never let it do that to me." She swallowed his words, hitting too close to her fears. "So why are you here to tell me you're still scared?" "No," he said, stepping closer. His eyes locked on hers. "I'm here because I'm in love with you, and I'm terrified, but I'm done running." His voice softened, raw with honesty. "You've changed everything. I don't want safe anymore. I want you." Maya's breath caught her walls crumbling under the weight of his confession. She'd expected excuses, not this, a declaration that mirrored her own buried feelings. Her past betrayal, the promotion lost to her ex's ambition, had taught her to guard her heart, but Ethan's vulnerability cracked that armor. "You can't just say that," she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "I walked away because I can't do halfway, Ethan. I won't." He said, "I'm not asking for halfway," closing the distance between them. He cupped her face gently, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. "I'm all in, Maya. I love you, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove it." The sincerity in his voice and the warmth of his touch unraveled her. She leaned into his hands, her tears spilling. "I love you too," she admitted, her voice breaking. "And it scares me because I've lost so much before." He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "You won't lose this. We'll figure it out together." His lips found hers, a raw, real kiss with no hesitation. Maya kissed him back, her hands gripping his shirt, the rain outside fading to a distant hum. When they pulled apart, breathless, Maya smiled like a weightlifter. "We need rules," she said, her voice teasing, but firm. "No kissing in the office. I'm still running the Unity Tower, and won't let gossip ruin me." Ethan chuckled, his eyes bright with relief. "Deal. But I'm holding you to coffee breaks." They laughed, the tension easing, and Maya felt a new certainty settle in her chest. This wasn't the end. It was a beginning. The Chicago skyline sparkled under a twilight glow, its lights mirrored in the glass of the Unity Tower's rooftop garden, a project Maya Thompson had brought to life. Nearly a year after her tearful confession in her apartment, where she and Ethan Caldwell had laid bare their love and fears, Maya stood on this rooftop, her heart racing. With its lush greenery and sustainable planters, the garden was her proudest achievement, a testament to her vision of spaces that connect people. Tonight, it was transformed with string lights and a small table set for two, a private oasis, and Ethan had arranged for a special dinner. Maya wore a flowing navy dress, its fabric catching the evening breeze, her curls pinned loosely to frame her face. In a tailored charcoal suit, Ethan stood by the table, his green eyes bright with a nervous energy she rarely saw. Their relationship had blossomed since that rainy night, shared coffee breaks, late-night talks about her designs and his investments, stolen kisses in her apartment's kitchen. At work, they'd kept it professional, Maya leading the Unity Tower to completion, while Ethan supported her from afar, his new firm funding other green projects. But tonight, his fidgeting hands and glances told her something big was coming. "You're acting weird," Maya teased, settling into her chair as a waiter poured wine. "What's up, Caldwell? You're not usually this jumpy." Ethan's smile was tight but warm. "Just trying to keep up with you, Thompson." He raised his glass, the city's glow reflecting in the wine. "Thank you for making this rooftop real, and for making me believe in more than numbers." Maya clinked her glass against his, her heart fluttering. "To us, for surviving my chaos and your stubbornness." They laughed, the sound easing the tension, but Ethan's eyes held a depth that made her breath catch. They ate grilled salmon, her favorite, and rosemary potatoes, trading stories about the project's final push. Maya shared how Marcus had praised her leadership, cementing her as Horizon Construction's rising star. Ethan talked about a new community center he'd funded, inspired by her passion for accessible spaces. The conversation flowed, but Maya sensed an undercurrent, a shift she couldn't place. As dessert arrived, a chocolate tart with a single candle, Ethan stood his hand, slipping into his pocket. Maya's pulse quickened, her architect's mind, piecing together the clues. "Ethan, what are you?" Her words died as he knelt, a velvet box in his hand, revealing a ring with an Art Deco-inspired emerald, its design echoing the historic buildings she loved. "Maya Thompson." He began, his voice steady, but thick with emotion. "I never planned to be here on one knee, feeling like my whole world hinges on your answer. I built my life on control numbers, deals, safety, because love scared me senseless after my parents' mess." He paused, his eyes locked on hers, raw and open. "Then you crashed into me with your sketches and fire and turned everything upside down. You made me want to risk it all to build something honest with you. I love you, Maya. And I want to spend every day arguing over designs, laughing over burgers, coming home to you. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks, her heart swelling. She'd feared love would dim her light, as it had with her ex, but Ethan had lifted her, celebrating her dreams. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking into a laugh. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The rooftop seemed to cheer as Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, its emerald glinting. He pulled her into a deep kiss, his hands cradling her face, the city's hum fading to nothing. When they parted, Maya grinned, breathless. "You planned this here, didn't you?" "My rooftop. Had to make it yours," he whispered, his forehead against hers. Months later, the wedding day dawned bright, and the Unity Tower's garden was now a venue for their vows. Maya walked down an aisle lined with wildflowers, her white gown shimmering with beadwork inspired by her grandmother's garden. Lauren and Keisha, radiant in soft blue dresses, beamed from the front row. Lauren dabbing tears, Keisha giving a playful thumbs up. Ethan stood at the altar, his suit flawless, but his smile wide, unguarded, stole her breath. The officiant's words wove through the air, but Maya heard only Ethan's vows. I promise to love you, Maya, to challenge your ideas, cheer your dreams and be your home, no matter where we are. His voice shook his vulnerability bare. Maya's vows were steady, her eyes shining. Ethan, you showed me love doesn't shrink me. It makes me bigger. I promise to push you, laugh with you, and build a life together. They sealed it with a kiss, the crowd erupting in cheers. Maya laughed against his lips, feeling whole, her fears of the past buried beneath their shared future. What a perfect ending. If Maya and Ethan's vows have you teary smash that like button. Share in the comments. What's your dream wedding moment? And don't miss more stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications for the next love tale.